Now, the UK's Electoral Commission had warned changes were necessary for EU citizens to vote, but they added that they had been powerless to act without changes to the law. Kevin Matthews is a professor at George Mason University in Virginia. He focuses on the history and the politics of Great Britain. So let's look at these elections underway. We're still a few days away from the results, but what's your read on what's happened so far?
Well, if the polls are correct, the party that's going to make the biggest gains is the Brexit party, led by Nigel Farage, who was the former head of UKIP, the UK Independence Party. It's estimated he could get as much, his new party, could get as much as 30% of the vote. The big losers are going to be the Conservatives, who, if polls are correct, are tied for 5th place, which is incredible when you think about it, that they might get only 7% of the vote. The Labour Party is also suffering because it can't make up its mind about where it really stands on Brexit.
And what does it say, generally, though, about the EU's direction and what voters want? Let's look at the bigger picture.
Well, that depends on whether or not these far-right and populist parties make the gains that, again, surveys say they're going to make. Those parties want to have a stronger national voice in the EU. They want to considerably weaken the EU's reach. And in effect, they're doing the work of Vladimir Putin because Putin wants a weaker EU. It's a strange situation to be in, but that's where we are.
Let's head back to the UK for a moment. The British members of the European Parliament that will be voted in, because of all the Brexit uncertainty, is there a chance that they won't even really get a chance to fill the role or serve on Parliament?
It's possible, but right now the main focus in Britain is how much longer Theresa May is going to remain as Prime Minister. There are some who think that she could be out as soon as the early next week if she doesn't give a time definite for leaving. Some estimates say by the 10th of June, her own conservative backbenchers could force her out. There's a question now about whether or not she's even going to be Prime Minister when Donald Trump visits on the 3rd to the 5th of June.
Right, she's under a lot of pressure. We're also watching by the day. Talk about the direction and the challenges for the European Parliament going forward, given what's happening in the world, the geopolitics, the trade war, trade issues. You also have the Iran nuclear deal that is, up in the air, tensions in the Middle East. Where does the EU go from here?
Well, again, it's something of a paradox, because at a time when we need to have international institutions working together on issues like climate change, on what to do about Iran, what to do about North Korea and its nuclear missiles, the EU itself is under stress. This election could be a potential game changer for the EU going forward. Even though you have people like Emmanuel Macron in France wanting to forge a closer union in Europe, you have other parties like and leaders like Viktor Orban in Hungary who want to considerably loosen the EU's grip. So we won't really know until Sunday night where this is going to take us. These MEPs will be in office for the next 5 years, and the EU could look very, very different in 5 years' time, again, depending on who wins.
It looked very different 5 years ago, and now here we are.
Yes, and more different still, though, because these nationalist parties really don't like the EU. The strange thing, though, is that in wanting to advance their own national agendas, it's going to be difficult for them to work together in a transnational parliament. So that's where they are, too. It could be a lot of surprises.
Professor Kevin Matthews, we'll have to see what happens. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.